the statement. So I hope you guys were able to get the state management in place. At least we did some initial things like toggling this loading bar. That was like the smallest thing that we can do in state management. I think I asked you guys to have this username display on top where you get a button to update this. How many of you were able to get it done? Anybody had any issues doing that? Maybe we can try it out. Anyone was able to get the name that display on top using state management and everything? Who tried this? I mean, getting the username on top. Anybody have tried this out? Raise your hand, please. I tried, but I failed. Nobody tried? I mentioned this last time, right? If did I mention this, Pasa?
Yes, I'm also in the middle. Like I have configured the tabs. Other than that, I didn't
Okay.
do.
Okay.
Sure.
What about others? Others were able to get it done. Bhagya, were you able to get that done?
I am in first part.
Hello? Can't hear you, Bhagya. Not sure. Krishan, were you able to get it done?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I am still following the first lecture recording, sir.
Okay.
We'll try it on this week.
Yeah, so better keep it up. Otherwise, we will be getting way back. So you guys will have a lot of things to cover. But
Yes,
anyhow,
most of us are in like internships, and that's the reason actually.
yeah. I was doing intern as well. Don't nag about it. It is, I know it is hard, but yeah, it is a hurdle that you have to play around. But I get the picture. I know you guys need some free time as well. Yeah. But try your best to get it done. That's for your own good, and you know it's always better you guys do these things, do the follow-ups as soon as possible. Okay. So what I will do is we will just I hope you guys will get this done. So we will move on with the other stuff that we're going to be talking about. Okay. So yeah, the next topic that I want to discuss is it's about what we call mobile application development. In a sense, we need to have something. The application looks like a mobile application. Okay, so if you load this application in your phone or whatever, the thing is this is still going to be a website. Okay, this is a website. How much you have tried to put in, you will optimize this for web, but it is not going to be a truly web a mobile application. The reason being behind, we are not developing this out of native stuff that we have. We don't have native elements such as the Kotlin programming, Kotlin project that act as Android application, or a Swift project which act as what do you call a Swift application or a iOS application. This is going to be still a website. Okay, but there are certain things in certain days we have mixed across the mobile and web technologies. For example, think a small application that we would be creating that needs less and lesser of native things. For example, we will just take some values from Firebase, or we will take some data from web API, and we'll just gonna display it. Okay. Of course, you can create a native application for that, and it will work, right? It's we are doing some kind of a pattern over there, and we can show these things. But in reality, what you are putting in there is like a waste of resources sometimes. Okay, the main few things that I find, if you are dealing with a very small application and you're just showing some stuff on the web, showing some stuff get out of a REST API and showing it in here. I would not recommend for an app unless it is the end user or the customer's requirement. The customer is insisting, no, we need this in a web application, period. We need this in a native application, period. If they are asking for that, and if they are willing to allocate the budget and everything, we have to go with the native mobile application. But think the customer is flexible and comparing the budget and everything, they are flexible on something that work perfectly within application, and a responsive website that we can propose for them, but they need that feeling, or they need something that truly act as a native application. Okay, so we have something in between. Okay, we have something in between. We call those things progressive web applications. Anyone have heard about the progressive web application, or PWA for short? PWS? No? Okay. So let me give a brief introduction on progressive web application. So a progressive web application, it's something like in between of a mobile application and a native application. So we have some features that we can leverage out of a native mobile application, and some features that is that we can take use of from native APIs. For example, you guys have seen the Android launcher, where you have like a menu where all your applications are listed out, and you select one application and it launches. Okay, so we can make our website, our mobile website, installable. That means we when we visit our website, just like a normal one, and we if you want to like install this, if you want to install this within your native phone, and you can launch it from your app launcher, you can do that. Okay, there are possible there are certain things, certain changes that we need to do, and once it is done, what we can do is we can make the application installable. Okay, and the other thing that we other things that we can do is have something like a what do you call a loading screen, or sometimes we call a splash screen. Okay, where you can define your own splash screen, which will prompt you guys to something like a logo, some text on bottom, and it's feel like okay, this application is loading and it is working. Okay, so that can be achieved as well. And there are features like location request. So if you need some features like it's related to getting to know your current location, yes, within a PW application you can get the current location. Okay, those kind of basic HTML, sorry, basic things, basic permissions you can ask from the PW itself. Then the other thing that mostly interesting is working offline. Okay, so if you guys know, hello, you guys can hear me, right? I think I lost the.
Yeah, now we can hear.
Okay, I think you guys can hear me. So I'll continue. One thing that um, one thing that I would see this in is the installable pattern, as I mentioned earlier, and the location, and many of the interesting is offline capability. Okay, for example, if you take this application and if you host it somewhere in a server, and you can see this website, or you can access this website as long as you have access to the web. Okay, so you access to the internet at least. So say for instance, you have a scenario where these internet access is very slow or maybe not available. In a situation like that, we can make our web application, our progressive web application, work in offline mode as well. So while it is in online mode, it will fetch all the latest detail which need to render things out. But as soon as it goes offline, as soon as things are not working, or you have a bad connection, or your connection is not very strong, what will happen is the offline capabilities, what you have stored while you are in online mode, will be shown to you as an offline content. Okay, so it's not going to get the latest content, but it is going to show you something at least when you are offline. Okay, so for example, a use case of a PWA, as I always says, say for example, you guys will be going on camping. Okay, so there is we can expect while you are in jungle or while you are in outdoors, the signal that you are getting, we can't expect it to be always strong, or it's always going to be like 4G or 5G is available in the jungle. So that is not the case. So in a scenario like that, we can develop a progressive application to help you with basic survival tactics or survival things in your while you are in the woods. And other thing is, since you are not going camping every day, you might don't need to have an app that is only you will be using once or twice a year installed within your phone, which will take a lot of space and all these things. You can have a web application which is very lightweight compared to if you develop the application in a way, it can be very lightweight on performance as well as in storage. So before you go into while, you can pop up the website and install the app, and once you are done, you can either uninstall it, or you don't need to worry about it having it there. So you can have such capabilities if you are using progressive web application. Okay, so the main advantages that you will see: installability, offline capability, some of the capabilities where you will get native elements such as the location installation, those kind of things. So those kind of things will improve. And if you go to this progressive web application article, you will learn a lot about these things, how it's gonna increase the performance, how it's gonna increase the users reachability. Okay, more we don't expect everybody who is accessing your website to have a super fast internet connection. If somebody is having a very clunky or very slow internet connection, we should cater those things, guys, as well. Okay, And most of the time, these websites, they might be depending on very low level of Android or iOS capabilities. Like we can assume, okay, I'm not always saying, we can assume that people who are in a very rural area, they don't need Galaxy S23 to go into their website. Okay, they use something in, not a flagship phone, but a standard smartphone. So we can anticipate the mobile processor or the mobile compute capability is also considerably low. Okay, so we can always make this consideration into hand, and we can work with this. Another advantage that I have seen throughout the progressive web application, those are like we can make these applications. We can make this application updates frequently. So if you take a native application, most of the time the update process is a little bit time consuming, and you need several approval steps and all those things. And if you are going with Apple, you need to have like, $100 a month to host these things, to at least have the developer accounts and so on and so forth. So the cost wise and the update wise, progressive web application, since it is a web application under the hood, you can update it anytime, and the updates are not going to be really huge. Okay, you can have mechanisms where only the updated part get downloaded to your web application. Other parts, if you haven't touched it, for example, let's take a lazy loaded module. Okay, the lazy loaded, if we take our application and we have lazy loaded and make the application in a proper way, and we did some changes on one singular module, and the other modules will remain the same. So in a case like that, only the updated module will be downloaded from the user side. Other modules will be kept in cache. That means they do not need to download the whole application. Only the modified part can be downloaded. Other things will remain the same. So this kind of things will help us to grow in a way that we'll find that most of the time our applications will looks good and feels good in hand of the user, and they will have knowledge. They will find that okay, this is working as expected. No huge gaps are there. So that's kind of things we can achieve by progressive web applications. So progressive web applications is a universal thing. That means any web applications that you are having can be converted into a progressive web application. Okay, there are certain steps that you need to follow. As long as you follow these steps in any framework, any programming language that you're gonna do the web development, it's gonna work. Okay, so we will see what are the steps in general that we need to do in order to make a normal web application a progressive web application. Okay, so let me go back, and I think currently our application looks like this. And we will add the progressive parts right now. Let me do a Google search on Angular PWA. So this is something related to Angular, but you will find the similar steps for other frameworks as well. So we can use this command ng-add and Angular PWA, and what is the project name that we are using. If this is for the Angular CL, but I think it should work with NX tools as well. So this command will help us to get service workers and progressive web application in our application as we know it. Okay, so there are several components that you need to know. First thing is the service workers.
Service workers can be considered as the offline server for our application. So when you are going offline, the service worker will kick in. The service workers is like a mini server which running your application, since you know web applications have server and client. So the client is the web application that we have seen in here, and the server is where you accessing your data from. Okay, so service worker in a scenario is like a offline. Offline, when you are in offline, you don't have the connectivity with your web client. So what will happen if we configured PWAs and service workers correctly? This service worker will act something like a server. Okay, it is like a local server that is running, but it is not having all the capabilities that the service has. At least to keep it running, keep it everything working, the service worker will kick in and will get the things done. Okay, so we will see the prerequisites, and one thing that you need to know, that when you are dealing with PWS, you need to have the content served over HTTPS. Okay, you need to have HTTPS. But if you are working with in your local machine and testing all these things, the local host will work, at least for testing. But if you want to deploy this in a web application, HTTPS is required. Otherwise, you won't get this working. So browser support, not all the browsers the supports PWS. As I mentioned, the first time that you visit to this website, progressive web PWA enabled website, the browser will detect, okay, this web application is capable of handling PWAs things, so it will initiate the things. So not all the browsers out there will support this. At least evergreen browsers will have this enabled, so you don't have to worry about a lot of things in the modern days. But remember, when you are installing a progressive web application, if you're going with the Android smartphone, I would prefer to go with Chrome or Android native browser. So those two support PWAs. But if you are on iOS, if you need to install this as a launcher thing, you need to have Safari installed. Via Safari, you can install the application to the launcher. If you have Chrome on your iPhone, it will not work. You need Safari in order to install a PWA. But for Android, you can use Android default browser or the Chrome to install, make it installable. Okay. So a lot of browsers will support, but there can be extreme cases where it will not. So since you guys can see the commits are almost done. We have in a clean state at commit level. So we will have these things installed within our application, and we will see caching happens, what will be happening within the application, and service workers and everything. Okay, so we'll start by adding these things, and we will look at how this goes on. Okay, so let me get the PWA command, that is ng add. Ng is for the Angular CLI. This should work with NX as well. But if not, they will provide us some commands which we can leverage as well. Let's see whether we can get it done. Ng add PWA. Ng is not recognized, so rather than using ng, we can say NX as well. Okay, so NX is not recommended, so you can say npm install Angular PWA and npx this command. I mean, that is like an equivalent of NX add, but in a different way. We can try it out. Let's see whether it is working. This did not work last time for the Angular material as well. but we'll give a try. Yeah, the project is required, as you can see. At least the package JSON got updated with the PWA. That's fine. We will look into those things in a little bit later. Right now, we will try to get the ng module instantiated. I think we can npx this command. We might need to give the project. Let's see whether it is working. Angular service worker in the root project conflict with 1604. Dependency conflict could be resolved. Let's see what we have in here. PWA, Angular PWA in here, and service worker. Service worker dependencies are not met. That means when we are adding this, Angular service worker is required in our root project. We have defined it at 16.1, but for Angular core dependencies, it's the service worker. This version is not that sufficient, so we might need to change it manually. So these things happen. These things happens normally because we have different versions of project setups. So this can happen. All you have to do is make sure the correct version is installed within the application. Probably they are complaining one with the conflict dependencies with the Angular core. Angular core required 1.6, but if you look at here, it is required an Angular 1.6, but in our root project, we are using service worker 1.6. In here, we have 1.0. Most probably, we will need to update this, and we can try it out. So it's like we are trying to make these things work. If sometimes it does not work, just use the force command. And it will just work as normal intended. Project input doesn't again schema. Okay. I hope must have additional properties. I think the force command is not allowed in here. Okay, let's try to get it up and see whether it is working. Let's see, what are the things that have been added? So the package JSON will get updated because we are using a few things, the Angular PWA dependency and Angular service worker. Okay, these are like dependencies added, and there are some configurations changes, NGSW config. So this is like a configuration file that we need when we are working with the assets and everything. We will get back to this one. So this file is added for now. And in the project JSON, they have added a few files, especially with these assets, with the manifest file. We will go into manifest file in a little bit later, and the service worker and everything that related to these things. Most notably, the things that we have introduced in here, these are like formatting changes. We are not he hugely want to concern these things. These are like formatting changes, but these lines of code, okay, these things are added to our application. Let me go to the index.html. So if you do not use any tooling like Angular add or something like that, all you have to do is make these things manually added. It will still work. Okay, what we are doing here is automating this stuff. So currently we had these things. Okay, normal web application related stuff, link and icons and all those things. The main thing that we have added in here is this link to the manifest.webmanifest file. Okay, so web manifest file we have added. Is it the same thing? Yeah, so 3 times it have been added. Not sure why. Only 1 time would do. I would get rid of these duplicates. Don't think we need 3 times. Some bug maybe 3 times that I run the application. Okay, so we need reference to this manifest. So this manifest is something like we can consider the manifest like it explains how the PWA works. Okay, what the PWA is going to look like. And this is helpful when we looking at the manifest. The browsers that is handling who is able to handle PW application, they will look for this file exactly. Okay, based on these files, they will give you a prompt. They will ask you to install this application. Those kind of informations are based on this line of code. Okay, if you did not define the manifest, the browser will not consider this as a PWA application or it's an installable application. So we need to have this manifest within our application. We'll go into manifest content in a little bit. Right now, remember, this is like a description or descriptive way of having the PWA related stuff. And the next thing is this meta. This is a simple way of theming our application. Okay, if you guys know, in modern application you can change the color of the toolbar. So this helps with Android. At least Android users will get this theme color. They can change it. Unfortunately, if I don't, I need a simulator to access this. Right now, I did not fire up the simulator. Once I did fire up, and we will show this how this will work. Okay, right now, remember this theme color is just doing some styling on Android phones. Okay, so manifest we have added in the index, and the next thing is the manifest file itself. Let me open that. Okay, so this is the manifest file. It describes the things with the PWA application. As I mentioned earlier, without this manifest, the application is not considered as it's not considered as a PWA application. So we can give a name and a short name for the application, and theme background, background color, display type, scopes, start URL, and bunch of icons. Okay, so I will start with the name and short name. These will be displayed when you are looking at the website. Okay, we'll see these things in action. We can change this name when you are doing the flash screen and all those stuff. Theme color is just like a color that you will see within the background and within the application itself. The background color is something that would style your splash screen. We will see these things and we will change these things and see how it looks like. And the display mode. So there are like a couple of display modes that is available for PWAs. So if you put standalone, the application will not see the toolbars that you usually see within your Chrome browser or Chrome extension. Okay, there are a couple of values in here. I'm not sure whether IntelliSupport support is here. I think no. So what you can do is we will just go with standalone. We'll see what are the other options. So scoping and starting URL, these things are pointing out where we need to start the application. And there are a couple of icon sets the PWA generator is generating for us. Those are like small icons. When you install the application, you will see those things. When you launch in the application, you will see these things. Currently, they are just showing some angular icons. We can change this, of course. And this manifest will just show you the different sizes based on your resolution. It will change. So we need to provide all these things. So if you are, you can generate this manually, or there are, I have seen some website, PWA manifest generators. Okay. So there are websites that will help you to generate this manifest file. Okay, you can utilize these websites to work with these things. And so there is this display mode that we talked about. There is browser, and there is standalone, which is currently now, and minimal UI and full screen. Okay, you can use either of these display modes. Based on the display mode, the app will change how it's gonna looks like. So we can have a name, we can have a short name and starting URL, and we can give optional description if you like. And the most important thing is that you can give a 512 image, and it will generate all these assets for you. If you have a logo or something like that you would like to show, you can do that. That is also possible. So let me get what do you call logo for these things. I can use the default one. Android logo creator, something like that. I can remember there was there's a tool. Yeah, this one I normally use to like get smaller icon generated. You can use these things for like as well. So I will say I can use an image or a clip art if you like. I say leave. You can use any clip art that you like, or you can use an image, whatever you like. Can create small icons if you like. Let me get the original icons to check whether I have those things. Yeah, is that can't remember actually, but anyhow, I will go with something small, something like this, and the background color like yellow, and the foreground color something like white. Okay, I can create any number of icons, tall rect or wide rect or a square. Okay, whatever the icons, and I can download the shape, and I will save it in my desktop. Okay, so I can feed that information. Feed that information to the manifest generator, like what we have seen in here. That's the manifest. Let me get it extracted. See desktop, open here. Okay, we have this. Okay. This is not the one. This one. Currently, I can't go it in here. Right. We have the launch icons in here, and the resolutions. I think these things are like huge icons. This is not the okay. Play Store 512. This one would do. You need a huge icon, or you can use the most large icon available out there. Okay, I'll use the image in there, so you can create one. Document, desktop, IC launcher. I'll go with the 512. So that's all I need. So I can generate the manifest. Okay, I need the name. So I'd say Dil Agro. Dil Agro. Short name, I would use the Dil Agro as well. And if I generate, well, I get the generated one in here as well. So I can use that. There's the manifest. Save it in the manifest. Okay, there we have the manifest. With the manifest, you will get all the icons like in here, and you will get the sample of the manifest as well. So I can use either these icons, which is provided by the manifest, or I can use the existing ones. I just want to show you guys that we can use these generators in order to work with these things. If you do not use Angular, you can use something else to make this happen. So it is completely optional, but we have something already defined for us. So we can use these things. Let me check whether I can replace these things. So it's only providing few. The generated one provide only few resolutions, but in here you will find a lot. Most probably these icons are like might not be needed for some reason, but it's better to keep all these icon types as it is. So we will go with the basic Angular one for demonstration purposes. But remember, these sites exist where you need to generate things to generate icons and all those things. Okay, the next thing I would see that this app configuration. Let me go once here. Donate this. So app configuration. So there are this need to happen only once. I think since we ran it 3 times, it got mixed up. So the service worker is something that we need to provide within our application, and the service worker is coming from the Angular itself, but this is one package specifically developed for Angular. If you want a service worker outside of Angular, maybe you are developing a React application, you will have plenty of options of choosing service workers out there. Right now, I'm going to utilize the service worker provided by to us using the Angular framework itself. But you can find service workers. This is just a simple JavaScript server that's going to run. Okay, a lot of examples are there for service worker. And remember, when you are developing a progressive web application, service worker is something that you should consider, or something that is must if you want to give the offline capabilities. Okay. The packages, and I think the service worker did not work. Let me do an npm install once more to make it sure that we are installing it. Npm install -- force. So we will be forcing all the dependency issues. That means this is not the recommended way. We have to make sure the everything is installed correctly with version compatibilities, but most of the time, if you're in a hurry, you can get it done by quickly going for the force option. Right now, the service worker is not showing any errors, and it is also showing the dev mode capability. So this the dev mode is the dev mode flag what we'll do is the service worker will only enable when it is not in the dev mode. That means by default, when we are serving our application, this application is served under dev mode, okay, development mode. And when we developing this application, the service worker will not work. So in order to test the service worker for ourselves, we need to enable the production mode. Okay, the production mode is simply building the application. We will see the production build in a little bit. Right now, remember the service worker is gonna only work in production mode. Registration strategy, not quite familiar with this term. Think we need to read upon right now. Register when stable, and I think registration strategy in the sense, define the service worker registration strategy which determine when it will be registered with the browser. Okay, so as soon as the service worker is introduced, it's gonna go and bind with our browser. We will show the service worker in our application. So if you go to the application itself and go to inspect, and within here, you will go to the application section, and in here you will find the manifest. Okay, this is the manifest that we have linked in our application. Seems to be an error as well, not sure why. And the next thing that we would see is the service workers. Okay, so service workers will take a little bit time to get registered in our application. Right now, since it is not going to be enabled by default because we are in development mode, and we will not register any service workers, but we will put this in production mode and see how we can leverage these things. Okay. Other things are like the storage. We are not handling at this point. So manifest icons. I think the application is not fully aware of the manifest. So what I'll do is I will stop the application while since I have ng serve this. I will stop it for now. There is the sorry. Terminal. Okay. I will clear it out. I will ng serve once again. So I just stop it and introduce it. So these kind of things might not get registered in the initial one. That's because of the bundles, and there are introducing of new files outside of this source directory. That might be the issues. So, but most of the time, if you find it not working, just give the dev server a restart. Now you can see in the manifest section, declaring iconic person, any markable is discouraged. It's likely to incorrect some platform due to too much or little padding. So these are like warnings that we might need to fix. Right now, I am not that much into fixing those things. We will just take these things into account. Right now, what you will see is the name, computer ID, and starting URL, the theme color, the background color, orientation, and the icons that we have provided. So these things are there. And yeah, so the PWA, so you can safely assume that the application is identifying this manifest. So by what do you mean by that? That means this application is a PWA compatible one. This browser is considering, taking into a consideration, okay, this can be a standalone OPWA application. If your manifest is not getting registered here, it's not showing any values, that means your configuration is not correct. That application is not completely completely not working for the PWA standards. Okay, so make sure the manifest is working as expected. All right, so we have the registration of the manifest. That's fine, but as you can see, this application is working like a normal application, even though we did not do anything. But most of the time, the progressive application things to be tested. I would recommend a real device. Okay, but if you do not have a real device, we can always go for Android emulator. Okay, we'll get the Android Android simulator in this scenario. I would use one of the existing ones that I have used. Settings. Okay. Because the main reason behind that, it's easy to develop and check PW application on a real device or a simulator. Okay, so use a simulator if you do not want to go into what do you call the if you really don't need to test these things out, so test it as a simulator. That is also fine. Okay, so make sure, as I mentioned earlier, use browsers like Chrome or something like that in order to work these things. Otherwise, it will not work as expected. Okay, so I'll use Chrome. Thanks. Since this is my first setup, let's see that we Chrome. Okay, continue. Okay, allow it. I don't mind. I can go for the local host 4200. Is the IP address I need? There should be a bridging local host. Am I in the same network? Yep. So I need to give the IP address. That's the case. Give me a second, guys. I need to do a quick research on that. Android simulator access local host. Is there communication? I can remember I did this, but I can't remember how. Localhost is the actual machine use. Okay, this IP should be work because this is like the port. Yeah, you have the host name around here, so host name should be there. Okay, host name, I have it. Studio. Let's check that out. Is it 10.0? What was it again? Ten 10.022, right? 10.022 colon 4400. Yeah, still not accessible. Let's do something like this. The 4200 sometimes it is not allowing other than the original host. That is expectable. What we'll do is we will go with the we will go with the build production. So you guys get the build production in here as well. So how we gonna do that? Pretty simple. So we have introduced what is this? We have done the normal build. Now what we'll do is we will take the distribution build and try to serve it locally and see whether it is working. Okay, first thing first, let's hope this works in production mode. Most of the time the production mode is the best place you can try these things out, the progressive web applications. And in order to do that, we will have to take the application into account, where we can have output the build version of this application. So in order to do that, what I will do is I will go to the terminal. That's the terminal. Okay, so I'm already in there. Within the terminal, I would type something like this. So I'm in the project root directory where I was working, and I would go with the command nx build. Okay, so nx build is the command that will build this application for production, and I can simply say nx build and grow. Okay, so it will build the application into the final version, where we can host it somewhere, where we can run it somewhere in internet. Okay, so this is going to be hosted, and you guys can see it is creating the application where we are in a place where you can host. How do you know it is compiled? If you go to this directory in here, and since we have different applications, this app and the application itself, it has this dilabro things. And this is the final distribution version of our application. You guys can see that index.html is there, ngw.json is there. This is something related to service worker. Manifest is also there. Index.html is there. So everything that we have done so far is compiled into this distribution one. So this is the final version that we will be deploying to our deploying into our web server or somewhere that we can host these things up. So you don't really need to host this in a server, but for testing purposes, I can use something which is available in the local machine to host this. Okay, probably you will be hosting this application somewhere like Nginx server or Apache server, or anything, any server that capable of serving HTML and JS, it would do. For now, I will use a simple server that most of the time you will get work with. That is called Python. If you have Python, you can use this Python HTTP server. So in order to serve that, first you need to go where the things are. So in my dist apps dilagro directory, if you ls, you will find all the things. Okay, this is the things that I need to serve. So in order to start a simple web server, I would use Python. I'm using Python version 3 and -m for module, and there is something called HTTP server. Okay, you can use any other HTTP servers if you like. Right now, I am using the most smallest thing that is available. So on localhost port 8000, you will find the application. We can test that out as well. While we are working on 4200, this is also working. Since I stopped it, it is not working right now. But if you say localhost 8000, yes, the application serves as well. This is the distributed version. This is not the local version that we work right now. This is the final product that we have done so far. Okay, so this version is the one that we will be distributing to the internet right now. For testing purposes, we are testing it in localhost port 8000. Okay, and if I'm lucky enough, let's say I get the Android Studio to work on this rather than 4000. Base 10 by 0 by 2 by 2 colon 8000. Yes, there you go. So you can see that the application can be accessed from here. The main reason behind this is that we are using our Python server, and one difference that you will see that the on the top of your application, it's kind of a blue kind of things. So you won't see this in responsive mode. That's because this is like a web application, but this is something similar to the real web application. If you guys can remember the value that we have put in here in index.html, the theme color, the content, this is the color that is making this one blue. Okay, even though this is the distributed version, I can change it in here and save it. If I come back and do a reload, you guys can see it is changing. So the theme color that responds to the application itself is going to be something that you can look in here. Okay, so this works. Within our application. And one other thing is the PWA capabilities. Are those coming in? Okay, are those kicking in? Well, hopefully, unfortunately, nope. Why? The reason behind is that, so if 10.80. So if you are doing a good job and if you follow all the rules within the PWA specification, you would get an information around here saying, okay, this application is installable. Okay, right now we do not get that. Okay, we do not get that information. The browser detects PWA capabilities, and it is showing us this is an installable app. Right now, we do not see that icon. The reason behind this, as we mentioned earlier, if you want to make it installable, you need to serve it in HTTPS. Okay, if you do not serve it in HTTPS or in localhost, this would not work. So in order to work, in order to make sure this is an installable app, either you have to give HTTPS to this address or serve it in the local host. So neither one of these are met. So what we have to do is this application will not be able to install as a native application. Okay, so first option would be either have this in localhost or either have in HTTPS manner. So we can do two things. We can host this. We can host this somewhere, and we can test it out whether it is installable and whether it is working correctly. Or we can test this in the local machine for further things. But my recommendation would be have this in somewhere that we can host and see whether it is working. So how we can serve this, how we can host this application right now. We can't test the progressive webness, but we can just see it is in here, and some of some of the capabilities PWA is not available at this moment. So what we can do is we can host this. We will host this, and after we host this application, then we will be able to see the PWA things. So how we gonna host this? Anyone have any idea where we can host this? Anyone have hosted a web application beforehand, a place that we can host this application and see it is working? This kind of thing. Anyone have done this? Okay, Prashant. Can you share about your experience? How do we host these things? What sort of things that you would use?
It's actually not Angular applications.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
normally we can.
as soon as you do the distribution, as soon as you got this dist, there is nothing to do with Angular after this point. After this point onward, this is going to be a simple web application, either React, Vue, whatever the framework that you are using. After this point, this is going to be plain HTML and CSS. Okay, continue. Yes, please.
I think we can host this on S3 bucket, and we can use CloudFront.
Yeah, so we can host this in S3 bucket, and we can get the link via Route 53. That is one possible scenario that we can do. But we need the SSL certificate, as I mentioned earlier. Without HTTPS, this will not work. We need HTTPS in order to host this.
We can also configure the certificate manager certificate in CloudFront, I think.
Yeah, we can have the CloudFront, and in CloudFront, you will get a certification from what you call Let's Encrypt, right? From Let's Encrypt, you can have.
No, sir, I mean the AWS certificate manager.
Yeah,
We can
AWS
get the certificate from there.
is issuing certificate from Let's Encrypt, or they have their own tooling. I'm not sure.
They have their own one.
Okay. So either way, you will get a SSL certificate from any provider, like as Kushan mentioned, AWS Certificate Manager, or something similar. There is Komodo. There are a lot of offerings out there that you can take for SSL certificates and all those things. Anyhow, those options are there. But right now, what we are looking for a quick and easy way to get things done and host this somewhere really easily. So any other options that we might see? Yes. Can we use GitHub for hosting? Yes, we can. We especially if you take h1lika.github.io. Yeah, this is also one of the websites that I have developed like a long time ago. Now, not continuously updating, but this one is also a static page where we can host our application. This is also possible. Yeah, we can host in somewhere like GitHub. There are a lot of offerings out there for free hosting. Now you can see that connection is secure. They are providing valid certification as well. So you can host these things in GitHub as well. All you need a GitHub repository, and it will once you upload these distributions, yes, all these files to GitHub, and it will also help you with hosting something like this, some static site. You can host and you can make this work. Yes, that is possible. Yeah. Any other suggestions? Any other things that you guys have seen with the hostings? It's good that you guys know these things, where we can host and everything. So you guys can see that this is working without any servers or anything, because this is basically a static site. Okay, we are not getting anything from servers and all. If there are open APIs, like we're in like something that we can fetch, of course we can use those things, but right now what we have is something small like this. Yeah, so those options are there, but for today's purpose, we will go something small. We will go with Firebase. Okay, we'll use Firebase to host our applications. We can do that without an issue. And probably we will use some other Firebase stuff as well. So what I'll do is I will introduce Firebase into our application, and we can leverage, or we can utilize the other things as well. Okay, so what things we would need to get Firebase hosting ready? So well, first of all, you would need a Firebase account and access to the Firebase console. Let me check whether I have Firebase console in here somewhere. I think I should have here. Yep. So I would go with the Firebase console. We have few things set up as well. Right now, I will go to Firebase and create a new project where we can host this host our project. So really simple. You would need a new project. There are a few projects. I will add a project, and I would go with the agro for short, and it will give some default name. Enable crash analytics. Okay. So I would not go with analytics. It might go at the project. Deal agro. Continue. I do not need these things. Create a project, and just like that, we will get instance to our application. We will get a database and view of the authentication stuff and everything that we will need to build a mobile application. But there are some things that we can utilize from Firebase, like Firebase hosting is there, where you can host your application as well. So we'll give it a try. Yeah, project is ready. I'll continue that. So I have a couple of projects set up in here. So we are in the smallest plan possible. We have Android app and we have web. I will enable web. So we need to register the app, and I will say same thing. I will go with the agro. Okay. I need to set up Firebase, and no deployments yet, but I need Firebase hosting, and I'll do the registration. And the next thing that we will need to do, adding the Firebase SDK to our application. So it's quite simple. Now, what we need is to add npm task, or we can use the script modules that we can take from here, or we can use npm installs, and we can get Firebase installed in here. But for Angular, there is specific libraries like Angular Fire, where we can utilize more than what we can see. But right now, we do not need Angular SDKs set up in our application. But if you want to take some things like what do you call storage and all those things, database and all those things, you need to set up the SDK. I do not think we will need the I think we do not need Firebase SDK in our application for hosting purposes. Hosting purposes, we just need the Firebase CLI. Okay, so for deployment, what you need to do is Firebase login, Firebase init, and Firebase deploy. Okay, I think we will do these things just fine. Since we are not using anything other than for hosting, we do not need to add the SDK and all, I hope. So what I need to do is Firebase login first. I think I have already logged into Firebase, so I do not need that part to be done. So I will go back to my project. Where it is, okay. Yeah. So this is my project right now. We are in our project directory. Yes. Right now, if I use Firebase, I have remember I have installed the Firebase CLI by using this command. So I do not need to install it again. I can use to deploy these things very easily. So right now, login is also done. I just need to call Firebase init. But if you are following along, you might need to follow the installation of the CLI as well as the login. But I think I have initiated. So I just need to say Firebase init. So Firebase is asking what sort of things that we need. So I would I would be using Firebase hosting and optionally set up deployment with action deployments. We will not use actions for now. We'll just go with hosting. That's it. We can use other things if you like, but right now my main focus is to just deploy this application in Firebase and get application instance. And what is the options? Create a new project or use something like that. I would use the existing project. So what it will do is it will go all the way and find the applications that I have. So I have the Allegro. This is the project that I have created right now. And select that. What is the what do you want to use as the public directory? So the public directory in this sense, so we have to say what directory that we will be deploying into the cloud. Okay, so by default it is looking for something public, but in our case we have the application under this apps build agro. Okay, this is like, if you guys can remember, this is where the production build happen. If you guys look at it, this apps build agro. So this directory should be deployed. So that's what I am saying in here. This is the public directory. I hope I haven't done any typos. Configure rewrite to index.html. Yes, since this is a single page application, I would say yes. Do you want to set up builds for GitHub? Right now, I'm not interested in that. And file, this app already exists. Do you want to override? Not at the moment. Okay. So what will happen is the configuration is done. And if you go back to the code, you will find some other new additions like the Firebase JSON and Firebase RC. And the Firebase JSON is something where you will find the things that we have configured right now. So it's gonna do it's going to look at the files and make it work. So this is like the configuration that we have done so far. You can even change some things if you have done modifications or you have misspelled something. So yeah, this is the Firebase configuration that we have added right now. And what we need to do is call Firebase deploy. Sorry, Firebase deploy. So what it will do is it will take the content from the dist folder and it will upload it to our website. And you can see that deployment is done and the hosting URL is this. Let's see whether it is working. Hopefully it should. Yes. Now we have the DIL aggro and it is working in our application. And even you guys, if you guys go to this website right now, I will put it in the chat to everyone in the meeting. You guys can go to this website and see it is working as expected. So you got yourself free hosting, a web application. Right now, it is working as a normal application. So as soon as we do this, we have something special in here. The first thing is you can see this icon in here. Okay, so if you visit this URL via your Chrome, or if you are in what do you call yes, if you visit this URL, the website URL that I have shared from your mobile, you will get a prompt like this: install the application, install the app. So if you in a position where you can install the application, give it a try, and you will see soon the icon appeared in your launcher. Okay, let me install this in my machine. And as this is Macintosh, this is also possible. This also appears in as a web application, not as a desktop application. That is also possible, and you can see the application works as expected. But the true intent in here is not to have this in a browse in a Macintosh or something like this, but to have it in your mobile. Okay, so the mobile will have these things, and you will be able to work or interact with this application as intended. Okay, so if I go back to this website, you can see that it is installable. So how many of you have the access to this? Shall I put this in the WhatsApp group so everyone can access? I think that would make more sense. I think WhatsApp, you will get the notification, and if you follow the link there, make sure to start open this in Chrome. Okay, at least Chrome. If you are not getting any messages on the top side of your Chrome address bar, you will see 3 dots there, and on that menu you will have something called install app. Okay, and the install app will ask from you and installing. Once you are done, once the installation is complete, you will be able to access the app from your mobile launcher. I'm not sure you guys can directly see it, but right after you do your installation, probably you will see these applications in your phone with the launcher. You will get a launcher screen, and it will look something similar to a native application where you can play around it. So how many of you guys have installed this right now? Yeah, Supini was able to take it and see the things that we have done. It's like a native application. Okay, you get the launcher and everything. Yeah, and you get a splash screen, at least for a brief moment. Okay, you don't see the you won't see the default things. I can show you guys if you guys do not have the. I'm not sure. Can I access my phone? Let me check. I have Android Studio, right? I can access Android Studio from here. Device Manager, Physical, Samsung. But I can't see it. Anyone knows how I can access my physical device, or I can share this? I'm not sure. I need to find a way that I can share my phone screen. One option is there. Let me check. Oh, no, even that permits only for my Chrome. But anyhow, I think most of you guys have a smartphone with you. I have given the link. You have Chrome or something similar. You can use your phone to install that, and it should work. So I think Supani has got it. I can show you guys from my camera. I'm not sure whether it is like the best option right now. So if you guys can see, I have the application in here, the A sign that I am having here. So if I click on it, there you go. The application start like a normal phone application. It's not even showing you the address bar on the top. It's just like a normal web application, a native application, kind of like a native application. But let me close that again. When I close that and take a closer look at when I'm showing, it shows the splash screen and it shows the application. Okay, so this is something that you guys can this is something that you guys can create a native like application, okay, but using web technologies. So since it is in the launcher, users will find that okay, this is kind of like a native application, but under the hood these things are all powered by web. Okay, so all things are powered web. So you guys have a lot of things in your hand, a lot of things that you can do. But remember, this is not the silver bullet or not the real use case. If I say for a alternative for a native application, but as I mentioned, there can be use cases that we can do this. Okay. Any questions up until this, guys?
So can we develop a like kind of a complex application with the same technology? Say like some application with which retrieves images or something.
Please do elaborate on that. I'm not quite getting what do you mean by huge application? Yes, I need more information.
Something like a simple social media application.
Social media application. So I would ask some counter questions. So where do you get the data? Like the APIs and everything is available for you?
Yeah, with APIs.
Okay. Yes. If the API is everything is ready, yes, the images that you can show, everything can be done, no issues. But what I'm saying is that is not possible with these kind of applications is something like a real performance gain applications where you will use what do you call, where you will use something like a native game. Okay, the memory is important and you need a lot of memory and all the stuff. You can't do that. And also remember the application itself. When we are using this kind of application, there are limitations with the storage. So for a native application, you will get around, I think, 10 GB, depending on the device, if I'm not mistaken. There is a huge memory limitation that you can access the storage and everything. But for web applications such as this, you will get around like 10 or 50 or MB, something like that. Okay, that is way more enough to have some information. But if you want to store in a lot of assets in your phone, this kind of thing, I don't think that would work. But if you are retrieving the assets from internet, like images and everything from the internet, yes, you can work with that. No issues. You don't have to worry about anything that answered the questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So as long as you have, this is something like a website put into an app and it works. Okay. So it is limited only for special or really huge things that we need. Something, as I mentioned, if you want to access the storage, if you want to access the gyroscope, those kind of things, yes, you won't be able to do. You have very limited amount of things that you can do, but those things will, based on your application, sometimes it might be enough, sometimes it will not. So based on your requirement, do your research, and you can work on those things as expected. Like you don't need to say, for instance, if I'm getting social feeds, as Hasan mentioned, from API, well, why do I need to have an app for that? Okay, we are just getting content from internet and showing it in here. That's it. So a PW would do much fine as you are doing something with the normal application that you are using. So yeah, it's totally doable. Yes, any other questions? Before we move into the service worker stuff, there are a few things you guys need to get to know. Yes, that would be a great time. So how many of you got installed the application right now? Raise your hand. Okay, few. Good. Okay, so if you're using iOS, make sure you access these in Safari. As I mentioned, Chrome will not, Safari will not allow you to install this. Via Safari, you don't, only via Safari, iOS users can install this. Otherwise, it's just a normal website for you if you're using Chrome or something like that. Okay. So remember the pros and cons. We have limited access for some things, and the other best thing is, say for instance, I want to update this application. Okay, right now, if you guys are looking at the application, you will see the green version of this application, if I'm not mistaken, because I deployed the old build. Okay, but if you refresh now, I think I have this. I have stopped the build. Let me take a copy. I will build it once again. NX build dil agro, and I will serve this cd dist apps dil agro. I will use Python 3 -n http.server. So I'm serving on HTTP server. I do not have admin kind of thing. Copy. I would edit this. Okay. Right now, I have changed the color to match the buttons. That is in what you call in purple. Okay, this is the latest latest change that I have done. So what I need is to deploy this. So if you are a normal application, if you develop a native application, this kind of small change, you have to make the APK, you have to give these things back to the store to review and all those stuff. But now, with the help of PWS, I just have to say Firebase deploy. Okay, so I am deploying my web application with the latest changes and uploading, finishing, and done. Now, if you go to the web application and you know the pull to refresh, you can reload it once again. Instantly, the application, now it is in. You guys can try it out if you think I'm lying. Now you guys can see, let me show you once again with the camera. Yes, this is in the live version and app just got updated just like that. Okay, so these are the benefits. Okay, these I'm not pitching out, okay, you should guys not develop everything in native now, you know, PWS, everything in PWS. That is not the case. Certain advantages, disadvantages are there. You should decide what should be the choice that you need to make. Something native like application, but not fully native, but something similar. Okay, you guys need to know the trade-off. If you are pitching this to a customer, if you are pitching this, the idea, okay, the customer has no knowledge, they need an app, but or when you look at the requirement, all you see is some smaller content, smaller things that we need to be developed, something frequent update, that kind of thing is happening. All you need to pitch them the idea of, hey, rather than using this native applications, why don't we use a PWA? And you can show them the benefits, you can tell them the drawbacks if the client agrees. If you find yourself, okay, this is okay, you can go ahead. Okay, and this is something that you guys can work and look around it. Can't we push that to the App Store like native applications? I would ask why, Krishan? Why do you want to push this to a native application?
No, sir, just ask.
Yeah, or if you can install it and if you can see it in the app menu, I would go with the first question is why, but sometimes, yeah, that is true, because when we are marketing some stuff, you know, when you're saying, okay, our app is in App Store, go to Google Play Store and this kind of things, when you're marketing, yeah, you need something like a native application. That's true, because this thing is not available in Play Store, you won't get these kind of things. But there is one possible way of doing that. I think most application does that. You can put everything in you can create a native application and put the content in a web view, and you can ship it as an application. Okay, you can ship it as an application. That is also working. But the problem is, if you take app stores like Apple, they would sometimes reject this. Okay, they would not recommend these kind of applications. I have seen that goes south. Sometimes they don't allow that. So it depends on the reviewer at that point. Sometimes they approve it, does not matter. But my opinion is, I do not want to go into that level. That's totally unnecessary if I ask someone. But yeah, your point is there. If you want to market in a native application or something like that, it's good to have something like that. Only the option that I told you is one of the things that you can do. Wrap everything in a web view and point that web view to your web application, to your website, and it will work something similar. Okay, but what's the point? Sometimes I will ask. Okay, but I'm not to judge, but it is unnecessary, if I may say. One other thing that you would, one other thing that you you did not see in this scenario is the prompting option. Okay, so one thing you guys did was go to the settings, or sometimes go to the more option and install the app. Okay, so you might see that the user might not be aware about this. Yes, so user is not finding this information out of the blue. Okay, they don't know, okay, this can be installed as an app and they can be used offline or something like that. They might don't know this option exists. So in order to tackle that, in order to work something like that, what we can do is there is something called prompting. So this happens, as I have seen, and this happens with Chrome, at least for me. So the Chrome will show you a prompt saying on the bottom. Let me check whether I have a screenshot of it. I'm not sure. PWA prompt, installation prompt. Let me check. Yes, so we can trigger the prompt like when you are going to the website for 2 or 3 times. Sometimes Chrome automatically say, hey, this application can be installed as an application. You want to install it, or you can have something like this install prompt coming out of it. You can manually trigger it. I honestly haven't tried this. Honestly haven't tried this, but you can ask the web application itself or aware the user, saying, hey, this application is installable as PWA. They don't know, they don't need to know the term exactly, PWA. You can just simply say, when you are going to the website, this is installable as an app. Would you like to install? Then you will click install, and there you go. They will have the application in their launcher screen. Okay, so the awareness of prompting such a thing will help you to gain more access and gain the user's attention to install this as an app. Okay, that is something possible that we can do. Okay, so you can make awareness by prompting, okay, install this app or something like that, and you can use that into your advantage, rather than you are prompting it, somewhere like something like saying go to App Store and download 10 or 20 megabytes kind of application and that kind of thing. So I would not recommend that. Rather than, I would recommend something like this. Okay, any questions other than this? Those are good questions. Eye-opening for me as well. Any other things that I need to clarify? Anything else, guys? So I need, before I move into the next section. Okay, hope not. So this got us to a location where we have the PWA ready, and we have all the things related to the application. within the within our within these sections. Okay. So yeah, we will move on. We deployed the application. That's good. Right. Where's VS Code? Okay. So I would just commit these things for you guys to make it working. I don't need these things. Delete this file. So you guys can't have this deployed in your machine. You need my credentials to do that, but you can use the projects name changes and everything. You will be able to deploy it in your own machine, but I don't expect you to deploy my application in your service. You guys develop this something new. PWA intro, use PWA added, and Firebase hosting. Okay. There, then that, commit and push. So next thing I would like to demonstrate, it is something related to performance. Okay, check whether I have them here. So it is something related to performance of this application, and we will see how we can improve the performance of this application. So as I mentioned earlier, the web is a place, mobile web at least, is a place where you guys can't predict a lot of things in terms of like the internet connection, the quality of the internet connection, and so on and so forth. So we need to make sure our application is small as much as possible. Okay, so let's take a quick look at our application. At least we do not want to look at the source at this point, because this is our development environment. But what we should be worried about is this distribution section. The reason behind that is, if the distribution folder is huge, okay, the time it takes the user to load the application will arise. Okay, so we need to make sure the application is in the smallest form as much as possible. Otherwise, what will happen, if the user is waiting for a long time and the site did not load, they will lose the interest of the application. They will just say, okay, this is taking too much time, we don't want to wait that much, I'll just go for another website or something like that. Those kind of things happens. So I'm not sure the exact numbers now, but I have I have read an article saying that if something meaningful did not show within 3 seconds with the first visit to your web application, the user will lose the interest. Okay, so as soon as you hit that visit button or go button in a particular website, if you do not see anything within 3 seconds, the user has a tendency to lose interest of the application as it is. So we need to make sure our website at least less than 3 seconds it is load in most of the conditions. Okay, so you can't say you can't like make the web applications in like 2 or 3 kilobytes. Yes, you can, but it is a little bit tricky, a little bit hard, but you can make improvements around your application in order to make your application work much better. The first load, the initial load, as well as the concurrent loads. Okay, the initial expression, the initial time it takes to load is something to be really concerned about, and you guys should look into that. In a serious way. Okay, so if I take the distribution of this application and look at some numbers, I would be probably having a huge payload. Okay, the best place that I have seen to get an idea about the production build is this build command, nx build command. You will get some information at a glance. Okay, so if you look at the application statistic right around here, you will see the initial chunk files, names, row size, and estimated transfer size. So estimated transfer size, this is something like says, okay, this application, when we are transferring it in a web server, it will weigh around like 136 kilobytes. But the total of the row size, that means when it is in service, it's gonna be around 600 kilobytes. So while transferring, it might get reduced based on if you are using some compressions. There is compressions like gzip and so on and so forth. I can't remember the other compression technology. So these things can be compressed and sent out to the browser. The browser understand, okay, this is something compressed. We need to uncompress it and show. So in a scenario like that, these transfer size and everything will be reduced. But the row size of this application, if you compare the numbers, it is around 600 kilobytes. Okay, and you guys can see on the bottom of the Angular CLI and XAR, it is a bundle initial exceeded minimum budget. Budget is around 500 kilobytes, not met by 103 kilobytes, and total of 106. So what this means? This means that we have put initial budget for our application. That means our application, the initial application, should be within 500 kilobytes for the row size. Okay, the row size should be, actually not should be, it is like a warning that we will see. The warning is make sure your application is around 500 kilobytes. And this is the minimum criteria, that if it is violating, it's going to just give us a warning. But there is a maximum criteria as well. So if you look at our NX project, if I'm not mistaken, and if you search in here, I think it's in the apps, the agro project JSON, and if you select budgets, yes, within the application and project JSON, you will find something like production budgets. So the initial payload, maximum warning is 500, maximum error is 1 MB. That means it will give, if your initial application is more than 500 kilobyte, it's going to give us a warning saying, hey, this component is more than 500 kilobytes. It's just a warning. We are not complaining anything, but make sure you keep it under 500 kilobytes. And maximum error is 1 megabyte. That means if the initial size is exceeding 1 megabyte, if the initial size is exceeding the amount that we have put it in here, then the compiler will say, hey, this is too much. Your initial size is way bigger than the default one. By the way, these are the default values. So these values, you can actually change this thing, but I would recommend not to do, because these are like standards values. Based on these values, we can assume our website is loading quickly. Okay, so I would keep these values. Even if you can reduce these things, that would be great. But most of the projects, it will be a challenge. Okay, but at least honor the defaults. By 500, you will get a warning. Say, okay, you need to make sure it is reduced. By 1 megabyte, it will not able to build. If it is exceeding 1 megabyte, it will stop building. And same goes for the other budgets. Any component style, that means any style that we will find in our modules. So for example, in our page, admin component SCS, maximum size would be 4. That means it will break. Warning will be given at 2 kilobytes. Okay, so you, by defining these budgets, you will unknowingly make these components smaller, make this component more usable, more manageable way. So I would highly recommend do not change these things unless it is a decision can be justified. Okay, right now we are having these very small budgets, and our budget is exceeded. Okay, so we need to find a way, or we need to say justify our values. So 603, if it is something not, if we can't get, it's under 500 kilobyte, we need to investigate why this is happening, what's the root cause, and how we can fix this. So we will investigate some tools which are available. Right now, there are other tools that we can utilize, such as if you look at the Dilagro site right now, and if you go to inspect, and let me get it on this side-by-side view. Make it, actually I do not need this much. And one thing I would go in here, in Chrome at least, you have this option called Lighthouse. Okay, so the Lighthouse is like a auditing tool for web application. We can analyze our page and see what's missing, what sort of things that we need to improve in our application. Okay, so we have the navigation, default mode, and the device that we are testing. So the report will have different opinion on based on whether you are in desktop or mobile. So since we are focusing mainly on mobile, we will say we will look in mobiles, and these are the categories that we need to look at. Okay, so this is going to generate us a report by looking at our website, running few tests, and it will give us some recommendations that we can improve our application. So I'll just go to navigation, mobile, select these things, and I'll say analyze page load. Okay, so it's gonna take a little bit of time. It will do some here and there adjustments, see how it's gonna operate in different conditions, and they will provide us a report where we can have a look and see what's wrong with this. Okay, what are the things that we can do to improve even. Okay, not only the errors, but things that we can do to improve our application. So Lighthouse auditing, it is something from the browser. So it's not something that you can it is not something binded to Angular or any other frameworks that you are using. It's simply a analyze tool. So any project that you are doing, even it is not want to be in something like what do you call the server-side rendered or single page application, whatever the application that you are in, you can test your application. You can do the audit using Chrome and this Lighthouse tool. So it's easy. So you get more insight. What are the things that you have missed? What are the things that you can improve upon? And how we can mark a perfect score. Okay, this is gonna give us score based on what we have so far. It's warming up. I'm not sure why it is taking that much time. It should not take that much, but yeah, let's give it a little bit of time. Yeah. So let's give it a little bit of time. Meanwhile, we will look at the build size errors that we showed in the Angular itself. So we have some tools called Source Map Explorer. So still it is warming up. I'm not sure why it is taking that much time. It should not take that. Something wrong maybe. But anyhow, we will look into our application in a different manner. So we will be using a tool called Source Map Explorer. Okay. In our application, Source Map Explorer. So we need to make sure this is installed within our application. So I can use npm to install the Source Map Explorer. Let me clear these ones and let it install. So Source Map Explorer will give us more insights about our application. And let's see it in action. Let's go to dist apps, Dilagro, and we will have a look at our application files. I think we can say source map explorer. One JS file. Okay. So source map explorer, I would say main.js. Unable to find source map. Okay. Okay, so what I have done is I try to analyze the source map for the application. Source map. Let me do it once again. Source map explorer. I want to explore this app Dilagro main file, but the problem in here that it does not allow me to explore these things. That's because when we are building this application, we are not enabling the source map components in order to analyze this build. So one other thing that we need to do before we are building, enable source maps. Okay, so you don't have to do this every time though, just for while we are working within the project. I think in the project JSON, source map. For development purposes, we have the source map enabled true, but for production, we do not have source map enabled. So we will say source map true. Okay, so what this will do is when we are doing a production build using NX build, it will generate the source map for us. So if you take a closer look at the current version of our distribution, you will see that main there are certain JS files, main, and there are polyfills and all those things. But when we enable source map, they will generate extra source files, what we call it. So I will just there's the build command. We have the build command. I'll just terminate this Python server. We have the build command. Okay, so I'll build once again, but this time I have enabled source maps.